Michael, do you have roll call noted?
Yes.
Okay, before we even get to public comment, we are going to open the nominations and then conduct an election for chair of the Planning Commission. So, are there any nominations for chair of the Planning Commission?
I just want to note in the procedures of transaction of business, it says the chair and vice chair shall be elected annually at the first meeting in February.
So why'd you put it on our agenda for tonight? So you'd
I
rather
just
do-
noticed that. Well, I think historically it was January, but I think the last time that the Planning Commission revised these rules, it was in February. They changed it to February just in case somebody new was appointed.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I guess it's a consensus of the Planning Commission that you want to go forward today and nobody wants to wait till February, that'd be okay. You can change your own rules.
Makes no difference to me. What do you all think?
Nobody's been appointed recently.
It wouldn't matter, but if we have rules, we might as well follow them.
Okay.
And I think that's exactly why. It was like if somebody else was
I'd forgotten
appointed to
about
give a
that.
30-day,
Yeah.
and the new one's coming in.
I think that was my year, actually, 10, 11 years ago, because there was like 3 of us that came on at the same time in January, and nobody knew anyone, so we thought, well, maybe we should give it a few weeks to get
Right,
to know
or
one
when there's
another.
new supervisors, so there's new appointments, yeah.
That's right.
Exactly.
Okay, so then we'll just continue that to the February meeting then? Is that the consensus? Okay. Then we will turn to public comment each month. In the county, we open up the forum to the public to discuss items that are not going to otherwise be taken up on the agenda. If not, public comment's closed. Turning next to the consent agenda, that consists of the acknowledge the public hearing notice, the certificate of posting, and the minutes of October and November meetings. Are there any thoughts or questions on the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve it?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second then?
Seconded by Commissioner Pierce. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, next is the regular agenda to approve the first item on the regular agenda is to approve the 2015 meeting calendar. That's tab 5. Any questions for staff on the calendar? There's no questions on the proposed calendar. Is there a motion to approve the meeting calendar for 2015?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Michael LeBrun.
Aye.
Aye. Item 6, this is a tentative subdivision map, TSM 14-92. The planner is Mr. Kelly.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Before I start, first, Michael Kelly, Associate Planner. And before I start, I'm going to hand out some copies of the initial study that covers this project, so just a moment. So this is 890 Buena Vista Road, site of tentative subdivision map 1492. And this was the site of zone change 13177, the zone change that rezoned it to residential, multifamily residential. That's the subject of course, the initial study that I just passed out. And I passed it out to you because this is the document that covers this project as described in the staff report. The project is, what was the project with zone change 13177, as you recall, was 80 units of multifamily housing on the rezoned site, rezoned to multifamily residential, RM zone. This project proposes 14 lots, 13 single-family dwellings, and what is intended to be 41 multifamily residences on the larger lot. The project would still be below market rate as proposed, with the single-family dwellings directed at moderate income households and the multifamily residences directed at low and very low income households. And as the staff report indicates, this project is of lesser intensity than what was proposed during the zone change. And so what is described in the initial study that I just passed out is considered to be covering this project. And the staff report, as the heading notes, is also an addendum to that initial study, that mitigated negative declaration, to denote that there is information in the staff report that relates to the CEQA matters of the project that relate to this document that I just passed out. So let's see, there is, what else might I say about this project? There are the associated improvements with this project. What difference between the former project and this project is that it was all private drives now. This one proposes an extension to Line Street. Might or might not be called Line Street. You know, I think I've done this before. I forgot to start up
called Line
this
Street.
presentation. But I don't know how much information this gives that you haven't already seen. These are graphics that are in the staff report, and see that there are 13 lots. About half the site would be what was the entire site covered with 13 buildings with 80 units in them. Now it would be half the site with 7 buildings containing 41 units, as proposed by this, and 13 lots each with single-family dwellings. And this shows improvements. It's hard to see on the screen, but you see it in the staff report. It's proposed to come in 2 phases, with the multifamily part, about half the site, in phase 1, and the single-family side in phase 2. The point of this is so that the applicant can obtain low-income housing tax credit funds to make the multifamily housing directed at the lower-income households feasible, doable, fundable. And the 13 single-family lots are proposed to come later. And just details on how the driveway would meet Buena Vista Road, and further details if you'd like to see them. But anyway, let's see. The conditions of approval in the staff report are derived from, most of them are the same as what were in the zone change conditions of approval. So what conditions were placed on the zone change of approval would also be placed on this. The changes, though, are conditions of approval that relate specifically to subdivisions. Conditions, you know, related to matters involving recording the actual map, if it were to be approved, and some changes to the improvements and dedications to reflect the fact that this proposes an extension to a public street as opposed to just private drives. And there are also, you'll see a section called additional conditions of approval that are, well, further conditions that relate to the differences between the former project and this project. And except for one of those is for annexation into the city of Hollister. The question of how services would be extended from the city of Hollister onto this site resulted in the city going to LAFCO, and LAFCO putting a condition on the extension of the services that the city annex this property, that this property become part of the city of Hollister. That was determined by LAFCO to be the most orderly option and in the public interest. So that is, I think, all I have to say for now. I can take questions, and I recommend, staff recommends, that the Planning Commission review the staff report, hold the public hearing, and hear all proponents and any opponents of the proposed project, make the CEQA and subdivision findings found in the staff report, and approve the subdivision. subject to the conditions of approval.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Any questions for Mr. Kelly before we open up public comment? There are none.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Commissioner Pierce?
I thought Pat was going to go first. So this is a phased project. So the infrastructure, does the entire project infrastructure go in all at one time? Basically, is this finished off before it hits the annexation
Let's
project?
say that last sentence again, please.
Okay, can I expect to see all this, the curbs and gutters, streets, and the infrastructure of the entire project done at one time?
Let's see, as proposed, the phasing shows that there will be a dedication, all one dedication at the same time. And, let me see,
Are you talking about dedication of the roadway?
dedication of the roadway.
Okay, I'm talking about infrastructure. I'm
Right,
talking
right,
about
right.
curbs, streets, gutters, sewer, water.
Bond for it, okay.
The applicant's engineer is here, and she'll be providing the improvement plans. I wonder if maybe she could speak to the timing of the
Okay,
improvements?
okay.
There would be a bond for these improvements to guarantee that the improvements would be installed.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the bond or the money or Chispa. Chispa has a good reputation. I think it's a good project. I just would like a yes or no on whether or not the infrastructure is going to be done pretty much all at one time, or if we're going to have something out there that's going to look a little rugged for a while.
May I?
Ann, can you help me here?
There's a potential for it happening in two parts. Certainly, all the curb gutter sidewalk improvements along Buena Vista would have to happen first, but the intent is to build the whole thing at the same time. The phasing is really just to achieve some funding goals that
Right.
Chispa has to meet, but it's still their intent to build it all at one time.
Okay,
But if there was a delay, Buena Vista itself would be taken care of first. The delay might be in improvements to the extension of Line Street. But the intention is to do it all at once.
okay. So that's a yes.
That is a yes.
Okay, now, since I've got you up there, okay, and since I've got you on the hot seat a little bit here, the North Street project pre-zoning was okayed last night at City Council. And the density levels in this area and the services and police and fire response times will probably be shortened quite a bit when that North Street goes through, correct?
I would think so.
Okay, so when, can you give me, and I won't hold you to it, but can you give me kind of a ballpark idea of how long you think that will be?
North Street?
Yeah.
I cannot speak for the city and how long it's going to take them to do North Street, but we designed the extension for North Street in 1999, I think. So it's been around for a little while.
Okay. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No problem.
Thanks, Sam.
Okay, let's open up public comment, even though we kind of did already a little bit. Anyone else from the public care to speak on this agenda item?
Gabriel Torres?
Pardon?
Gabriel Torres.
Good evening, Commissioners. Gabriel Torres from Chispa. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have in regards to the project, and also wanted to take this opportunity to thank staff, both planning and public works, for working diligently with us on this and getting it before you here this evening. Again, a lot of why we're phasing this is due to the timing for financing for the development, and so we are in that process of preparing all applications for financing on the multifamily side, as well as working with our local banks here for construction financing for the single-family homes as well. So again, those, if it doesn't detail it in the report, the single-family homes are targeted toward San Benito County residents. We've done developments very much like this before, where we target local employers, whether it be the county, cities, large growers in the area, and then we set aside some of those homes specifically for those employers. So that is our intention with the 13 homes, to make sure that they are set aside for local residents. And so our goal is to make those affordable to residents at 120% of area median income. So we're covering all sites, because as we know, there's plenty of market rate in town, but nothing that fits those with the lower income levels. So I can answer any questions you might have this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Some more questions may pop up
Okay.
downstream, but thank you for that. Okay, if there's no one else, then public comment is closed. Any further comments, Commissioner
Yeah,
Lowe?
Michael, I'm trying to remember, on the remainder lot,
Yes.
say it doesn't move forward the way they're planning on doing it.
Mhm.
We can never go back, though, and add further conditions, is that correct? The conditions that are set are set.
The conditions, well, if it could, if this never happens, if the subdivision of the 13 lots never happens, it could be, I believe it could be revised to be a different arrangement of lots, could it? Or it could alternatively, I believe, be
Yeah, maybe if they come,
multifamily.
yeah, if they come forth with a different project, you could change it to different conditions of approval.
Yeah.
Like if they want to change it to, multifamily, like high density, then it would be a different project and it would come back if they chose to change it. Is that the question?
Okay.
Or conceivably, it could be, if it just is, if the concern is the zone change conditions of approval, I believe the Planning Commission could just amend the conditions of approval. Does that make sense?
Well,
No, I mean,
if the project never happens and the map isn't recorded, then then it expires, the map expires. The conditions of the zone change still apply.
Right.
And any future project that may, if required, come back to the Planning Commission, we could look at those conditions again as we could this evening.
Okay, and I'm going off memory here, but say they build half of the project, and then it kind of goes dormant, and they don't build the remainder of the project, and then 15 years from now, somebody comes in, at that time, could they actually move forward with the project without additional conditions? How does that work?
It's a multifamily zone site, so it could be multifamily housing on the site. It could be just a new subdivision. The conditions of approval are there to, a lot of them are for development impacts, and whatever development goes there would just need to respond to those impacts from the development. So it could be a whole new development, possibly, if that answers your question.
Okay, so basically, we could put further conditions on if needed at a later date.
Well, let's see. Now, if it's a by right project, if it's a ministerial project, a multifamily housing would be a ministerial project, so it's possible that I suppose the county could initiate an amendment to the zone change, and that would allow a chance for changing conditions.
The map will expire if it isn't recorded. Once it's recorded, all the conditions of approval are attached to that map. But if the map is never recorded, then the map will expire eventually. Right now, there are multiple by-law time extensions that have been enacted, so it could be some time before it expires. But the commission won't have an opportunity to put further conditions on it unless a project comes back before this commission.
Right, okay.
We can't recall it back to the commission if the project does not, if they don't follow through.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question. Is that one parcel? All that property is one parcel?
The property as it is, this is just a picture of the property, as it is one parcel right now.
So when they start annexing to the city, it's going to be considered one parcel, they're going to split it in half?
In order to, well, it's not spelled out in the condition, but in order for this property to get services, in order technically really for it to get permits, building permits, it would have to get annexed. So it could perhaps be annexed piece by piece, but it would, couldn't go forward unless it did get annexed under the condition that's proposed in the staff report.
I mean, they start doing all the infrastructure in there, they do the apartments, and then they're gonna, before anybody occupies, they gotta annex to the city, so that could, the whole parcel could be annexed to the city.
Yes.
Yes,
yes,
it's supposed
it
to be.
could
And that's one
So-
reason for the applicant to go through that process as soon as possible, so that doesn't hold up the building occupancy. So they should try to start that process to annex to the city as soon as possible to make sure it goes smoothly.
So if it gets annexed to the city, then the county has nothing over it in the future.
It would not have jurisdiction on the property.
Yeah.
Yes, Commissioner Keller.
So I think my comments are really for the commission, maybe to think about or to discuss something. But I guess I feel a little bit of discomfort because it seems like originally the plan was for 80 family, multifamily unit that I think the county really needs. And now it looks like they kind of cut it in half and they're going to build a bunch of single-family homes, which I'm not sure that the county needs because we have a lot of them. I don't know about price levels, but, and then the multifamily gets whacked way back. And it's almost, and I feel like it's kind of a bait and switch. You know, they brought this thing in that showed something and now they're coming back with something very different from what they originally proposed. So I don't know if it's my place to say what they should be doing with it, but it just, I don't know,
That's a good point. So
Ken?
are you comfortable with the switch to single-family, more
Well,
single-family and less multi?
I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems like this county needs some high-density stuff for the families that don't have a lot of money and can't afford a home. And
Well, should we have the Chispa representative?
maybe so, yeah.
Sir, could you address the reason behind, from an organization standpoint, why you switched from multifamily to more single-family?
Absolutely. So if you refer to, I believe it is page 14 of 16, and this kind of outlines the overall site map. So originally, we had in mind to do 81 units, multifamily, and just kind of give you an insight, the tax credit financing program that's used for these types of apartment complexes, they're targeted to low, very low income families, is a very competitive process. We have a number of different competitors in our area who do this type of development, and over the past 3 years, there was a trend for senior housing, tax credit finance senior housing. There was a trend towards rehabilitation of existing apartment complexes that were funded through tax credit financing. For large apartment complexes, and we're talking of 50 or more, the process for securing tax credit financing is, because of the elimination of the redevelopment agencies throughout the state, it became extremely difficult for agencies to build or finance anything over 60 units using the tax credit financing program, because you were required to bring in additional funds, soft monies, which were typically coming from the redevelopment agencies. So the elimination of those agencies did basically put a gap in financing to make these pencil. And many agencies like Chispa had to come back down and actually reevaluate the developments they had in the pipeline and get them to where they would be competitive in the financing for these tax credits. And typically, over the last 3 years, that's been 60 units or below. And to give you an idea, Chispa last 2 years ago, we built a 56-unit apartment complex in Castroville, our Sea Garden apartment complex. And that was the last larger development that we've done. Everything moving forward has been 23 units, for example, seniors, 40 units, multifamily. That is, we're kind of adjusting to fit the financing that's available via the tax credit financing program. Because if we were to come to the county or the city, there's limited funds that we could use to supplement those tax credits, because they do want to see jurisdictions put basically money into these projects, but the amount of money that would be required, it would be very substantial. So we did actually apply for funding through the county for the 81 units, and Unfortunately, we missed some timelines for that financing, and upon first response, we weren't even going to make it. So we had to reevaluate the site and determine the size that would be appropriate and be competitive in this next round of financing.
Well, would the county even have had the funds had you made the deadline?
No.
It's my understanding that the county doesn't have a whole lot of money right now.
No.
Supervisor De La Cruz is back there, so.
Yeah.
So really what it comes down to is the fact that the county didn't have the supplemental funding that you needed to make the 80-unit
Exactly.
multi come true.
Right, and so what we're actually going to be doing in regards to the single family, obviously, we've done these types of single-family homes before. When we sell those homes, compared to your for-profit developers who are basically, building a home for about 124, 125 and selling it for over 500,000, Chispa's be building these homes to meet the income levels, building it at a reasonable price, and using those funds in many cases to supplement soft costs that we would need to build the multifamily apartment complexes. So we're generating funds to help make that affordable housing happen, basically, is what we're doing. And in turn, what the tax credit folks also like to see is other supplemental funding that we are applying for to help the adjacent community. So, for example, Department of Housing and Community Development just released a notice of funding availability for park improvements. And because we are going to be doing a single family and a multifamily affordable development, we would qualify, when I say we would be co-applying. The Chispa as well as the county and the city would be applying to help receive a $75,000 grant to upgrade existing parks, and which many of you may have read the article in the paper with the recent arson at the play equipment in Calaveras School. Those funds could actually be used to improve Calaveras Park or any other equipment adjacent within a half mile of the development. So we're trying to apply for other funding that not only ties to our development, but nearby facilities that our residents would be utilizing as well. So, and when we do that, it looks a lot better when we submit our application to the tax credit financing folks. They want to see not only input from Chispa, input from the local jurisdictions, but also other private monies. For example, we've been getting private money through a local lender to augment, the necessary funding. So they want to see a very diverse portfolio, if you will.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Did that address your point? Okay. Commissioner Pierce?
Gabriel, can you step back up for me?
Yes.
I'd like to know what you consider your time frame to be for the build-out.
Well, again, we're again, with thanks to staff, we're moving along fairly quickly. We have the tentative map here this evening, along with the phased map. We would then continue going on recording the final. We'd move on to the single-family development, making sure we got maps for that as well. Our goal already is we've been working with the city on is in regards to annexation. The key holdup for the annexation are APN numbers. So getting these final maps recorded and on the record helps us in getting the annexation process going so that we can start with the single-family homes. Applications for the multifamily tax credit side are due in March, and so we are currently working on the application now, and we will be submitting that application for the multifamily in March. If we're not successful in that March round, we do have a second chance in July, and so it's twice a year, 2 rounds per year. And again, I mentioned it's very competitive, but we've been successful in getting projects approved for first time around, knock on wood, and we will do our best to make sure that we can get this moving fairly quickly.
So best case scenario, when do you break ground?
We would like to break ground in the summer on the single family.
Summer 2015?
This summer.
And the building cycle for phase 1 would be this summer through when?
Typically, a single-family home, you're looking at 4 to 5 months to build out a single-family home, and we have our crews currently working on a subdivision like this in Greenfield now. They're wrapping up work down there, and so build out on this could be probably about an 8-month process to get these built out. But we do have a lot of legwork that we would need to do if we are identifying particular agencies to set aside homes for, which we were very successful in Salinas and doing that with Salinas Valley Memorial, the county, the city of Salinas, and Fresh Express were a couple of the growers that we targeted or set aside, with their employees.
So you'll be selling the single families, but you'll be renting out the multi?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And thank you for your time.
No problem.
Part of the thing too is this actually breaks into the area over on that Buena Vista Road, and the city general plan basically has that whole area designated as high-density residential. So when North Street goes through, and that project up there in DeNova also has a mixed use of high density, low density, and all that mix in that process, coming down over the hill into this. This brings infrastructure into the area. It opens up the area for growth for more affordable, higher density rental units and other units. So it's the big deal is having the artery of West Side Boulevard and other units to be able to get police and fire protection in there if you need to. So it's the beginning of it. You have to have a contiguous touch to the city limits before you can annex. So it doesn't make any sense for them to just partially annex this. The whole unit should be going all at one time. And LAFCO should be behind it. Last time I talked to Broutman, he loved this thing. So.
Okay, good. Commissioner Lowe?
Yes, Gabriel, excuse me. Yes. Did I understand you correctly that the money that was coming from the county, that's fallen apart now? You're not getting
No,
that money?
we have money set, we've applied for home funding through the county.
Right.
And so the only holdup for that, actually finalizing those home funding is getting actual APN numbers for this, because we have to actually show them a final map that the project is. They want to see progression, so they want to see that we've at least gone through and got the tentative map, but we want to basically hand them a final map and say, we're moving forward, here they are. So home requires basically a mapping,
So that is still moving forward then? Okay.
Yes.
And then I guess my other question, we need this kind of rentals in the
Oh, yeah.
community desperately. Now, you said that the homes would stay for local people.
Correct.
What about the rental units?
The rental units as well. We'll target locally. We're actually working with Dreams and Visions community builders to, you may have seen their site. I don't know if you've driven by the site. We have a lot of signage up there in regards to what is being proposed. But we're working with Dreams and Visions community builders to get folks on our interest list, which, by the way, happens to be 210 folks on our interest list as of, I think it was Monday, as my assistant was telling me this morning. And I mean, that is a lot of folks. So what we're doing is we're being proactive, making sure that they are actually going and attending the financial literacy classes that Dreams and Visions is offering here in town at a reasonable price. We want them to be able to have enough time to get their paperwork in order, get their documents in order, make sure that they're credit worthy. And even if they don't get into our development, that at least they've had the financial literacy training to be ready for other developments that may come in town. I know the city has one other development proposed in town. And because of the tax credit financing, again, they are very strict in making sure that the management agencies are verifying incomes, doing critical background checks. It's a very lengthy process that these applicants have to go through, and we're just being proactive and making sure that anybody who's interested in this program is taking the initiative to get that literacy completed and get those certificates, because it will be asked for. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Sounds like you're doing good work in the community. Good for you. Anything else? Okay, if there are no further planning commissioner comments or questions, is there a proposed motion?
I make a motion, we approve the RM zoning for the 14 below market.
There's a draft recommendation on page 3 of 16.
What's that?
Page 3 of 16 are the findings that you need to make.
You find it, okay, 16, okay. Okay, the staff recommendations? Did we approve the staff recommendations for the planning commission? And make the CEQA and subdivision findings set forth in the staff report and approve tentative map, subdivision map 1492, subject to the condition of approval.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Good luck, sir. Thank you, Ann. And thank you, Michael, and staff, all staff who, sounds like have been working very hard on that. Agenda item 7 is a minor subdivision, 1184-06. The planner is Michael Krause.
Got it.
Not here.
Yeah. Staff's requesting at this time this item be continued to February 18th,
Okay.
2015.
Is there a motion to
At 6 p.m.
continue agenda item 7, the minor subdivision, 1184-06 to February
So
meeting?
move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion items?
I have a discussion item.
You have one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like a report on the general plan by staff director.
We have the general plan as was approved, not officially approved, but as blessed by the commission and the board, has been online for 8 months now or so. We have received the environmental impact report, the draft environmental impact report. Staff is currently reviewing it. It depends on what kind of changes, if any, staff needs to make to the environmental impact report. But we're reviewing it now and hope to have it out as soon as possible for circulation.
Possible. And so can we put a kind of timeline on it?
I will be giving a report to the board on February 3rd. I will know more about if any further staff review is going to be required by that time.
Okay. I'll look forward to it.
Any other discussion items? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I've got a couple items just to throw out there. I mean, just as to inform the commission about things that are going on.
Oh, yeah.
It's
and
not
we
agendized.
skipped
but-
the director's report at the beginning.
Yeah,
so
we
go-
did the
yeah, sorry about
director's
that.
report, but just a couple of
Sure.
informational items. One is that the appeal of the Verizon tower has been continued to the February 3rd meeting. That the Verizon tower at the Sunny Slope water tanks that was approved by the commission has been appealed to the board. The decision has been appealed to the board,
Who's the appellant?
Frank Guerra,
Okay.
and that will be heard by the board on February 3rd.
Okay.
So we'll keep you updated on that. And then the other item, just to make sure the public is aware, we are having a public meeting next Tuesday, January 27th, on the supplemental environmental impact report for the Panoche Valley Solar Project, the amended project. We're going to be discussing this document here. So this will be and this is available to the public. There's a copy out here. There should be a copy at the library, copy at the clerk.
Who prepared that?
Down at the planning department. This was done by Aspen Environmental Group, the same consultant that worked on the first project.
Okay.
So we will have the public hearing on the public meeting on the EIR, the informational meeting. No decisions are being made. We don't like to debate the merits of the project at that meeting. We just like to inform the public of the project that's coming and then get comments on the draft environmental impact report that then gets rolled into the final environmental impact report, which is the response to the comments. Then we'll be taking that entire package to the Planning Commission March or April.
Okay.
So that's on the horizon.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Commissioner
on
Love,
that?
of course.
Byron, on that, any changes that the developer is asking for from the original approval conditions or the development agreement, will that actually be spelled out?
Yes, yeah, all the changes will be very clear.
Okay, so I mean, we won't have this huge document and then try to match it.
We'll let you know what's different, yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. In the absence of any other comments, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. See you in February. Thank you, staff.